Good afternoon, Cedarfield family. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you tuning in to this live stream here at 3 o'clock. Again, those of you that are viewing this video from home tonight, should you have any questions about the contents of this video, please feel free to call 804-474-8801. And Renee will answer all of your questions very timely. I first want to start off by thanking Vivian Makowski. Some of you may know her, some of you don't. She lives in the court. 3 weeks ago, she suggested to me that I send out an email to folks and ask folks about music. And so I did that about 3 weeks ago. So all these songs that you hear in the beginning of this live stream, those of you that are actually viewing this video tonight, you don't actually hear the song. If we were to upload the song, we wouldn't be able to post the entire live streaming. But those of you that are listening to this live, all these songs are suggestions from the residents. In the beginning, I was playing a lot of music that was of my particular taste, and then Vivian pointed out to me, why don't you broaden that a little bit? So I did, and all of these songs that you have heard over the last 3 weeks are suggestions from residents. So today is Michael Jackson, Man in the Mirror, just because the song has a lot to do with this one particular resident wanted an emphasis on, as we go through this pandemic, that we really need to look ourselves in the mirror and making sure that we're making our own changes, not only for the good and health and safety of ourselves, but for the good and healthy, the safety and the health and well-being of everyone else around us. We all need to look ourselves in the mirror and ask ourselves, are we doing our part to keep ourselves safe and to keep everyone else around us safe? So, if any resident has any other suggestions about music, please feel free to send me your suggestions. Music is a staple in the Shaw household. If you were to walk into my home, you most likely will be hearing music throughout the entire day. So we welcome suggestions of music for these live streams. And I also just want to thank Barbara Fiske and Maudie Lynn for yesterday having been a guest here on this live stream. If anybody, I'm going to give one more plug for today. We'll probably give many more plugs throughout the weeks to come. If anybody wishes to learn more about the Diversity and Inclusion Action Team, of ways that you can involve yourself in that action team, please reach out to Mrs. Fiske. It is really a vitally important action team. It has been, and moving forward, as we unfold our reopening plan, I think that the Diversity and Inclusion Action Team will play even more of a pivotal role in how we are more inclusive and tolerant and kind of one another as we unfold what will be a different retirement community until we come up with a vaccine, hopefully within the next 12 months or so. So part of our COVID-19 communication has to do with preparedness plan, and just want to emphasize a particular point here. From here moving forward, we're going to mention a preparedness plan, and we're going to mention a reopening plan. And the two do not intersect. The two are going to run parallel to one another. So with the risk of sounding redundant here over the next several weeks, I think it's important that we continue to communicate what is the evolving preparedness plan currently in this pandemic. How is that evolving preparedness plan moving to prepare for the surge that's about to happen in the fall? And then coupled with that, our reopening plan. The governor here has announced throughout the week that phase 1 is due to commence probably next Friday. And so how does Cedarfield, how does any retirement community plan to unfold their reopening plan that comports with what state guidelines and federal guidelines have to say, but yet you are unique to managing a retirement community, because we know that the most vulnerable of this entire disease are the actual folks that live here, people 65 years of age and better. So we're going to start another segment here in this live streaming talking about the reopening of services and amenities. But for now, preparedness plans. Our preparedness plan right now is locked in on infection control. Our housekeeping department, and more importantly, our folks that are in the licensed side of the community, our health center, assisted living, and memory support, are working in concert with Connie McGowan, our infection control director, and we are super focused on infection control. And in fact, that's what the National Guard, the Department of Health, epidemiologists all have to say is the main, if you're looking at a pie chart, 75% of what you should be doing that's in your preparedness plan should involve aggressive, vigilant infection control. And so that's been what we've been focused on here over the last several days. We were just on the call this morning with the Department of Health and reviewing with them the state of the union here at Cedarfield, in particularly the area that is called the South Central area up on our health center, and how we intend to further cohort that neighborhood, utilize our personal protective equipment, our staffing model within that neighborhood, and the infection control standards within that specific neighborhood. It was a great call, and I'll be sharing a little bit more about the details of that tomorrow. For those of you that are wanting to follow along with some of the statistics of our preparedness plan, to date we have tested 44 residents. 8 of them have tested positive for COVID-19. That is a change from yesterday. We did have one test come back that was pending in the state lab, and that test actually came back negative. And these last 2 numbers have not changed. 82 team members have been tested, and 8 team members tested positive for COVID-19. One other thing about our preparedness plan has to do with celebration of a life lived. And as I had mentioned over the last several weeks, that our intention is to continue with the traditions that we have had in place for 24 years of celebrating a life lived. And I just want to caution everybody that we live and work in a retirement community, and we have the, depending upon how you do it, I look at it as a fortunate event, being around somebody on their last days, our teams, and being one with that family. It's an honor. It's a privilege to be in and around a person in their last few days. That's my view. And my word of caution here is that just because we are in a COVID-19 era of time, that people do pass away, and people pass away for a variety of reasons. So I would caution people around the campus, if you hear that somebody has passed away at Cedarfield, please don't automatically think that they've passed away with COVID-19. or who have tested positive. There are so many reasons why people pass away. And we intend to, as I've said all along, we intend to celebrate a life lived through the traditions that we have had in place and continue to have in place. It actually has evolved a little bit with Florence, Trish, and Margaret adapting how we do things in a to comport with different protocols now. But some of what I've heard over the last 24 hours is some folks have passed away, and then the rumor mill starts to cycle that, oh, well, it must have been COVID-19 that they had. So we are err on the side of caution and privacy. These things are family matters. Before pre-COVID-19, we did not announce why people passed away. And during this pandemic, we are not going to do that. So I would encourage you not to hypothesize of why someone is passing away. I would really appreciate your help. I know families would appreciate the privacy, and certainly the gossip around the campus really is not really needed at this time. Okay, next up is David Stewart. David has been our dining director since we broke ground here at the community, and just recently, David has graciously taken on wellness and leisure. As Matt Dameron, our Associate Executive Director, has been laser focused on the licensed side of our community. We did a little temporary reorganization, and one of the things that one of those reorganizational elements was David is taking on wellness and leisure. So David has a couple of highlights to just help the community with respect to wellness and leisure. So this is David Stewart.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm glad to be here with you, and glad to bring you some updates on wellness and leisure. Let's see. Today we have a live stream. It will be the first of more, I hope. And today was a live stream with Louisa Rucker doing a floral arrangement. We've got a few other people who have volunteered to be part of a live stream. We're hoping to get an art demonstration, maybe some cooking demonstrations, but we want to thank Louisa for stepping forward and agreeing to do the live stream here on our set today. We are coming up May 14th. We're going to have an entertainer here on our live stream. His name is Christopher Price. He'll be here at 1 o'clock. And so you can tune in and listen to the live music from your Cedarfield Fellowship Hall. We're also working on a number of options to get people engaged and outside. And we hope to begin announcing some of those very soon here. We've got quite a number of plans in motion, and I think you're going to enjoy these. The weather's been spectacular, and I think we all need a reason to get outside and get involved. Let's see, I was informed recently we hired a new art specialist, Fiona Ross, and she will be with us starting the first week of June. So I understand she comes with a great deal of experience, and I think we're going to enjoy having her here. And lastly, not lastly, but almost, we're working on a new resident directory, and if you have any changes or updates for it, please let Lori know. We would especially like to have everybody's email address. If you have one, Lori would love to have it included in the directory. More and more people are using electronic communication, so email addresses would be very much appreciated. If you have one, please furnish it to Lori. And then lastly, we, on the Wellness and Leisure front, a resident made a really interesting suggestion that maybe we could have a talent show, and we would film people individually and then live stream it together. I think it could be fun. We're just looking for interest right now. If you think it would be something you'd be interested in participating in, if you'd let Lori know, that would be great. And if it works out, we'll work on putting it together. So I think that's it for my wellness and leisure announcements. Certainly welcome any questions about wellness and leisure, or even dining. I haven't been with you yet to talk about dining, so if you want to let us know, we'll try to answer those questions as well.
Let me flash up my number real quick.
Okay, Michael's going to put up the number. So I'll give you a little background on how we're doing it. Maybe that'll be of interest in the meantime. So what we did, we moved into this plan as we created 5 distinct call centers that are in different parts of the dining room. And so each area of the campus is assigned to a certain call center. The cottages are often speaking with Devon, so on and so forth. So we spend 4 hours taking those orders, and then we have to put them in an order of production and delivery. So that takes another couple of hours to do. And we've got our person who used to be Blake is his name. Blake used to be in charge of the Prima cook line, and he's been coordinating all of those, getting the orders in a sequence, and we produce them by delivery area. So we have to be very precise how we produce them and then how we deliver them. And so, as you well know, we are trying to get everybody delivered in a timely fashion and with as much accuracy as possible. And our goal each day is 0 errors. And in the last couple of days, we've hit that mark. But if anything is missing from your order, you just let us know and we'll get it out to you. We're planning menus with thought of what would travel well and get to you well, and be something that you could eat at that time or that you could warm up later. So we're trying to make the menus as diverse as we can, while thinking about how we're able to get it to you in a quality fashion. And as I'm sure you've figured out, this is also what we call batch cooking. So this is a little bit different than cooking to order that we do in our restaurants on a day-to-day basis. So it's different for all of us right now. And most of our cooks are not people who have experience with batch cookery. They're all the new cooks. So we've been working day by day to refine our processes and make sure we get things to you in the best fashion we can.
Menus for more than one day.
Menus for more than one day. Is that, you're thinking, Renee?
Can they have menus for more?
Printed menus? I'll check into that. They are prepared.
What's the question? Tell me the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So the question is, can we have more than menus more than just the next day? That's physically possible. I'm a little concerned about confusion, but yeah, it's physically possible. We can do that. I did have a resident also ask an interesting question about our lettuce. We do a lot of really special things in dining. One of those things is that we get heads of lettuce in, we cut them, we wash them in a special solution that's made for vegetables, and then we dry the lettuce. And what's really interesting about vegetables is they get dehydrated as they cross country, and sometimes giving them a little bit of a drink makes them a little crisper and fresher. So that's part, the other part of the reason we do that with lettuce, is it gives it a drink. And I think you'll notice that our lettuce is usually very, very crisp. So we not only wash it to make sure it's free of any sand or bacteria, but then we dry it, and along the way it rehydrates it a bit as well. So it's kind of a neat little step that we take with our lettuce. So thank you for that question.
Tell me about the supply chain.
Oh, supply chain, yes, very interesting. So we have quite a number of really good suppliers. We're a fantastic customer. We operate year-round. We have very, very good relationships with our vendors. We buy a lot of food. We're very good customers to our food suppliers. So I have great relationships with leadership at our food companies. One of the things that you're hearing a lot about on the news right now is the shortages of meat and things in the country, and certainly that may be something that we begin to see at our level, but not yet. And I don't think it will come from my conversations, and even one about 10 minutes ago with the vice president of one of our food companies, and that is because while some of these plant shutdowns have affected supply chains to the tune of 7%, 10%, you've also got to recognize that restaurants are closed. Most restaurants are closed. The food business is off about 60%. So really in the commercial sector, there's in some cases an excess of food. So we may find that certain brands or packs or cuts are unavailable to us, but from what we're hearing from our distributors, we're really in a solid position to still be able to get our beef and our chicken and our pork. If that begins to change, they'll let us know well in advance, and certainly we'll let you know. But right now, as far as dried goods and meats, we're doing very, very well. Produce is a different situation. Produce is funny. The order for produce is placed as much as 2 weeks ahead to the fields where things are being grown. It's harvested, it's packed, and it's shipped, and it makes it to the west, from the West Coast usually to the East Coast in about a 2-week time frame total. It goes into Baltimore, and from Baltimore it goes out to the different states. Our produce supplier is located right in Baltimore for that very reason. So we're getting food that is just produce that's just come off the trucks from the fields, and it's much, much fresher than we could otherwise get. With the situation going on in the country, there is some difficulty with trucking. Trucks are being called to duty to ship a lot of things that maybe before they didn't. So produce is kind of hit and miss. We've some days not gotten things we needed and wanted, and I don't want to scare anybody, but when we move towards reopening, that may be our biggest challenge is produce, because all of the restaurants are going to call up and want to get fresh produce, lettuce, tomatoes, all of those things, and it's going to take a while to refill the pipeline. So produce might be interesting coming up. For those of you who've been out to the grocery stores and maybe seen empty shelves in the grocery stores with regard to especially meat, I've heard Costco doesn't have anything. They're two completely different supply chains. The meat cutters that do retail for grocery stores are different factories than those that do packaging for restaurants and stuff. Our meat typically comes in cases so big, at my age, I can barely lift them anymore. They're very large packages, usually cryovac, vacuum packed, usually about 80-pound cases. And so the plants that produce those are different than the plants that produce the pack for restaurants, for retail, for grocery stores. And you can't switch them over at all. And so there is sometimes difficulty in the grocery stores with finding certain products, and that's just because people are home and they're cooking at home and they're not going out to restaurants. But on the restaurant side, we're doing very well. Question, what about applesauce? Can we have applesauce? Sure. Cheeseburgers. Oh, we did cheeseburgers one day, and it was what do they call it, a dumpster fire? It was very difficult to do. We had to pack it and wrap up the lettuce. We had to wrap up the tomato. We had to wrap up the bread. Then we had people wanting certain temps. And boy, did we have a tough day. We were late producing the food. We had lots of mix-ups. So we're going to try to figure out a way to maybe do it a little more simplistically and maybe offer a few less options to our customers, but yet do it. We do have a chili dog and chips coming up because somebody sent me a note about that. And as far as our menu offerings, we are very much doing, I hate to use this word, but it's very accurate, we're doing an assembly line. So we have people at different stations doing different tasks, and we're trying to minimize the number of things that each person does so we can stay on time and we can stay accurate. We don't want to run behind, and we certainly don't want to have a huge number of errors. So we're offering quite a number of choices, but we're trying to keep those choices within what the team feels we can do without overwhelming them and slowing the whole production process down and increasing the error rate. So you'll see we've made some changes to the menu based on feedback from customers, and we'll continue to do that. So if you have some thoughts, send them to us. And if it's something we feel that will resonate well with the whole resident family, we're glad to do it. Fish, can we have and how to
Can we
reheat?
have fish?
We have a fresh fish option every day, and we're doing real well on fish. Our fish producer, I've spoken with him personally quite a number of times. There's certain, some boats aren't going out. There's some species that aren't available at the moment, so we're in touch with them multiple times a week as to what's fresh, what's good, and we're buying those items. But we're also trying to do things that will travel well. If we don't think it'll travel well, we're staying away from that. Shrimp travels well. Some of the thinner fish we've heard kind of got dried up and didn't look good. One day we did a rolled fish option and it looked horrible when it got to the customer. So trying to be cognizant of what we can get, what will look and travel well. But we do offer a fresh fish option each and every day.
How do you reheat it?
How do you reheat it? Boy, I tell you what, I'm a microwave master, and I don't know if you all are, but I wouldn't blast it in the microwave personally. If you know how to use your temperature setting in your microwave, your power setting, I guess it's called, I would suggest doing that. I would suggest doing two minutes maybe on power 3, and then seeing if it's where you want it. But that's I wouldn't blast it. We're trying to be real careful when we cook it and get it to you as fresh as possible. So don't put it in at full power would be our recommendation.
Good. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, David. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
One other thing to highlight about wellness, Cedarfield, about 9 years ago, those of you that aren't familiar with this, residents and team members came together, led by a resident, Tom Maxwell, and Amy Chapman, and we developed a philosophy called the Pathways to Wellness. It's why we have the building in the center of the courtyard to this day. And on the screen here, you can see 4 of the well-being dimensions. 1 being creative expression, 2, a healthy body, 3, emotional balance, and then 4, diet, dining, and nutrition. 4 more are intellectual growth, spirituality, community outreach, and brain fitness. So residents, I hope, know that you're getting a scorecard in your meal bag here, I think on Mondays or Tuesdays, so that you can follow along and making sure that you have a balanced well-being and checking off different things that you're doing in your day to work on one particular category or another. Hopefully over the course of a week, you're touching on maybe 5, 6 different well-being dimensions each day to assure yourself that you have a well-rounded well-being. Families that are out there listening to this video tonight, I would encourage you to go to www.mycedarfield.com. And when you're clicking guest access, you arrive at this landing page here at the bottom. Most of you are viewing this video tonight because you went to the icon to the left called the Coronavirus Updates. If you scroll over to the module, the icon that's labeled Pathways to Wellness, there are 8 different dimensions of well-being in that module that you can certainly take advantage of, or you can encourage your loved one to take advantage of. If they have a computer or a smartphone, there is a whole new virtual world that can be opened up to them that really comports with the 8 domains of well-being. And so I would just encourage everybody to maybe reset, take the time today to go into this module called Pathways to Wellness. Familiarize yourself with it. I know I do, my wife does. We're constantly going in there, thanks to Karen Hoffman and Elizabeth Caldell and many of the other Wellness and Leisure Team folks for their efforts in creating video or downloading video into this module. My sons, as an example, utilize some of the musicals that are in here before we go to bed. It's just a great module and icon with all kinds of information that comports with our Pathways to Wellness philosophy. So take advantage of it. The team's working hard at making meaningful content available and accessible. The Supply Shuttle Program tomorrow kicks back up for those of you that are listening tonight. Powers of attorney, responsible parties. If you have a loved one living in the health center, assisted living, or memory support, tomorrow is your day. Please feel free to drop off supplies over at the Park and Ride, located at Maynard and Gaskins, right on the corner there behind the hotel, between 1 and 3 o'clock. The team will be there to help shuttle supplies back into the campus. Just a couple of construction updates. The pond dredging looks to be indeed a little off schedule due to the rain. And so we're looking at a first week in June target date to complete that project. The Parkview entrance project should come to a conclusion. Can I get a hip hip? Hooray! There goes Trish. Thank you, Trish. So that will conclude the Pathways to Wellness POD, or Plan of Development, inside the courtyard. It looks like we will finish that, the fire lane, and connect that to the circle just outside of the Parkview entrance here by next Friday. So one other phase down on this whole master planned project. Grocery shopping. Amanda and the team wanted me to emphasize that we will kick back up grocery shopping on Monday. Tomorrow is not a day for grocery shopping, so please don't leave your orders on the phone for tomorrow. Tomorrow is not a grocery shopping today, but we will kick that back up on Monday. Those that live in the cottages, whether you're in the lane or the court, and those of you that live here in the main building, independent living, on the first floor, please have your orders in on the phone by 8 o'clock on Sunday, May 10th. And we'll utilize the shopping list to go shopping on Monday morning. The number is 474-8850, or you can 8895, what did I say?
Your
Oh, I said my number. You don't want to call me. 474-8895. I mentioned yesterday about a reopening plan. And this is our second day into that reopening plan. We've talked, there's several of us that have looked at the federal guidelines, which pretty much mirror Governor Northam's guidelines as well. Phase 1, 2, and 3. We have been combing through those guidelines, and as a team, we are coming up with a plan, our own timeline of next week to really hone in on a final version, not a final version, but a good solid first draft of what a reopening plan looks like for Cedarfield. We are going to involve residents in this planning process, not just 1 or 2 people, but various departments are going to reach out to folks on the resident council and involve them as well in that plan. I just want to emphasize the fact that, again, this particular COVID-19 pandemic, the most vulnerable to this disease are people 65 years of age and better. And so we need to be really detailed in what our reopening plan looks like until we come up with a vaccine 12 months from now. And so this plan just isn't going to be whether or not we open a restaurant or whether or not we allow the beautician to come back on site. We have to develop policies that comport with social distancing and infection control, and develop those policies per service level or amenity to assure ourselves that we are reopening the community in a very intelligent way, in a very thoughtful way, so that we don't come up with another outbreak. So just wanted you to know that those plans have commenced, as we said a couple of days ago that we would start doing it this week. Just want to give another plug for the Cedar Digest. Fred Beck is looking for writers, and he's looking for stories. So if you have a great interest story, come through the last couple versions of the Cedar Digest and kind of get familiarize yourself with the type of stories that have been published already. If you have even if you don't have a gift for writing, if you have a great story, one of the writers will call you and interview you. So if you have any interest in a story and or writing, please contact Mr. Beck. Scams. Unfortunately, when times are tough, thieves thrive on the tough times because they know people are potentially the most vulnerable. We have seen and heard an uptick here in the last 48 hours in both emails and phone calls to residents here at Cedarfield. So, and actually my mom 2 days ago called and said she had a scam phone call. So, just a word of caution. As you're answering the phone or you're replying to email, extreme caution. If it just doesn't seem right, I would not proceed with the phone call or answer the email. Double check with whomever you have to, or you can just call Renee or I, and we will walk you through what we think it might be the situation. But just please, 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 this is a public service announcement. Please be careful and be vigilant on knowing that thieves thrive on the tough times because they know that people are more vulnerable and they're out there right now. In fact, I don't think I told you this, 3 days ago my car was broken into right in front of my house. So was Lisa's. Lisa's car was broken into not too long ago. So thieves are out there. Thank God we have a secure campus. We have a gatehouse. It's very good news to know that we have security here 24 hours a day. So anyway, just a caution, word of caution. Night and weekend nurse coverage. Residents have concern, and rightfully so, about nurses coming over to independent living. These are the nurses that are on the nursing floor where we have COVID-19. So some residents have said, well, what's our emergency protocol? We love the service amenity that we have here with nurses being able to check on us. So we have, Ann Hopper and I and the nursing team have pieced together a new policy. So the good news is we do have nurses here, nurses that we rely on as being the nurse supervisors, particularly into the evening hour and on the weekends. These are nurses that have been here for a long time. We're going to come up with we've been practicing new protocols and looking at new protocols to make sure that you get a professional nursing clinician opinion to you if you pull your pull cord. We do know that we know this for a fact, 80% of our pull cords that happen in the middle of the night, which is usually 3 a week. If you're looking between 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., we roughly get about 3 pull cords a week. So the volume isn't that many, but we know that 80% of them in a given month have really a lot to do with advice or opinion, asking the nurse, what would the nurse do? And 20% are more of the situations where there really is a medical emergency. So we're going to set a policy in place that the nurse will call the apartment first or cottage first to see what's going on. If it's really that 20% where it's really critical, or if someone doesn't answer the phone, the nurse will go over in full PPE. If not, they will triage the situation. And Ann Hopper and I are working on another level to support the nurse so that the nurse has a backup clinician to help her triage the situation. So we hear you loud and clear, we're working on it, and Ann Hopper and I feel very confident about what our plan is going to be moving forward. Tomorrow I'll make more of a firmer announcement of what that plan is. Yesterday I talked about rogue trail walkers, and it seems to me that I confused a lot of people. So I'm just going to make emphasis on this one more time. There have been a few residents, probably because people are getting antsy inside of the apartment. There are a few residents that are making their own trails. They're cutting branches. They're clearing a path into the Deep Run Park. They're putting ribbons around trees to mark what that path is. Really getting pretty sophisticated. And so yesterday I made a public service announcement that said these trails are not safe trails. Beth Burrell and team have been taking down these markers, and miraculously the next morning they pop back up. So just a word of caution. A, we don't condone residents in making new pathways into the park. Secondly, whoever you are, please stop making trails and putting flyers in residents' mailboxes to encourage them to go on these new trails and go on new adventures. These trails are unsafe. I can't even make this up. I'm not even making this up. These trails are unsafe. So A, whoever's doing it, stop. B, whoever's listening to these memos and thinking, oh great, it's a new trail, let me go try out the trail. Please don't go on these trails, they're unsafe. They have roots, the ground is unsafe, it's a very unsafe environment. So this is not comedy, I'm not making it up. I couldn't even make it up if I tried, I'm not that creative. So please, just be safe. Whoever's doing it, stop. And I would be most grateful. That's half of our calls for today in the administration suite. Now for good news. So we're going to try something new. Over the next 3 to 5 days, Renee and I are we've given permission for a family to pilot a birthday celebration. I don't want to say who it's for, because I don't want to give away the surprise. But there is somebody on this campus that's going to receive a awesome birthday celebration that comports with social distancing. It really should be a great birthday in a COVID-19 world. So we're piloting this. We've asked this family to come to the community as a pilot for us. We put some guardrails around it so that we can manage it. And if it goes well, it might become a new program. So in the next 3 to 5 days, you may hear somewhere on one of these days, you may hear bells, cowbells, you may hear hooting and hollering a happy birthday song loudly. And we're pretty excited for this resident. We're really excited for this family to be maybe starting a new path for us. So that's my good news for today. Renee, do you have any questions for me? Any questions come in? If anybody has any questions, please text here now. I'll just make note again to all the nurses out there. Thank you so much. It is a gift from God what you do. Only a very small fraction of people in the world possess the disposition, the experience, the compassion that you have to be in and around people 65 years of age and better, and be able to take care of the mind, the body, and the spirit every second of every shift. It's an incredibly difficult and also rewarding career, and we don't take lightly that we have 45 LPNs and or registered nurses that work on our team, and we could not be more honored that you are here delivering great care to the residents of Cedarfield. Happy Nurses Week. Okay, so that's all the news I have. Ladies and gentlemen, Trish Carter for Spiritual Wellbeing, and I think we have some good news too.
Good afternoon, Cedarfield. I'd like to first remind you of a few offerings that we have ongoing on Monday mornings at 10, right here from the same location. We stream morning prayer. On Thursdays, we stream also at 10, a Joyful Reflections program. And on Sundays, again at 10, we live stream our worship service. This Sunday happens to be Mother's Day, and at the conclusion of our service, we will have a Mother's Day tribute slideshow. It is not too late, family members, if you're watching this tonight, to get those photos into me. And now I would like to share a Sanskrit proverb. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the realities and verities of existence, the bliss of growth, the splendor of action, the glory of power. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every day, every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. And now for our good news. Okay, let's see these pictures and I'll explain. Well, this cutie pie, this one is Philip, who is 1 year old, and he is the great grandson of Becky Simmons. Isn't he adorable? Next. All right, now this little tiny one is, if we time travel back, that is baby Philip when he was just a bit younger. And here we've got baby Charlie and William and Rush. Becky, I hope I got those names all in the right order. So, it's good news in and of itself to have such gorgeous great-grandsons, but here's the real good news. These boys who currently live in Michigan are moving to Virginia, to Charlottesville, where very, very proud great-grandmother Becky Simmons will get to see them ever so much more often. And I'm praying for a day when she can see them and hug them. That is our good news for today.